Any audience, questions from the audience? No questions? Okay. Mr. Holmes, thank you for all of your responses. And at this time, we'd like to offer you the opportunity to have some final comments or final statement.
Yes, my final statement is that, if given this opportunity to lead this district, one of the things that I want to do within that 30 to 90 plans is to conduct in each one of our buildings what I call a diagnostic review of every building. And what we do there is we go in and from the principal's office all the way down to the custodian's office, and we dig out and see why our buildings are failing, what causing this, and then what we do then from that point is develop a action plan. If we need to get teachers trained in their professional area of subject area, core subject area, then we get them trained. If it's literacy and reading, teachers need to be trained in, we get them trained. If it's scopes and sequences, whatever the case may be, we get them trained. And we have a lot of teachers that lack training, and I see it every day, and so, but we do offer support. And sometimes that will cause us to bring in different resources in order to get the proper training that they need. We reach out. One of the things I'm willing to do is reach out to the ISD. That's the purpose of the ISD, to bring that support to school districts. And I've been knowing Scott Ratney a long time. I think way back when I was middle school principal. And I believe that he's willing to offer all the support that he can for our school district. And I'm the type of person that don't mind asking questions. I don't mind asking for help if I need help. When I ask, I'm expecting you to help. And my final words and my 30-day plan that I put together is that one of the things that I believe that we need to do is to get personnel, develop a serious partnership, like I said, with these local teacher colleges. We must hire a curriculum director, a special ed director, data analysis person, recruit teachers for Muskegon Heights, offer incentives, like I said earlier, I won't go over that again, for the new hires, and meet the school board expectations. School building security, we have to get security in every one of our buildings, proper security. We need in this building over here at the high school, we need what you call that machine you walk through? Yeah. We need that machine in order to, if there's a person has something on there, you can scan it and we'll know whether it's, they got something on them, and then also another thing within that 30 days, we have to do what you call a budget review the revenues of projections, also our expenditures, and also when we look at that can help us to develop what you call a low cost measure. In other words, we want to make sure at the end of the year, our fund balance is in place. And that is so key. Technology, oh man, right now our students are using Chromebooks. We need real computers. That's what we need. I know that the government kicked out this Essence money, and and we need to really get things on track to get the best of the best for our students. One other thing, our facilities. I know we can do better with our buildings. Our buildings need to be sandblasted, to bring it back to life. I can see a lot of dirt in the cracks in the crevices and things like that. We need to strengthen our, like I said about the fund balance just a moment ago. And then we need to start the process of finding savings. Don't leave the lights on, teachers, custodian at night. Turn the lights off. It's cost. And so these are some of the things that me as a superintendent, that probably can bother me. Student success is number one, and watch this. To facilitate optional learning opportunities for all student education, and for our curriculum, for our system, our tools and support, this is what I will do. I will ensure that all decisions are made using these 5 prongs approach. Number one, whatever decision we make, is it good for all the scholars? Number two, is it available to all the scholars? We can't put it all the eggs over here and don't spread them out over here. We got to have a balanced thing here for every one of our scholars. Is it research and evidence-based? Everything we do, it has to be research-based. Is it a proven factor? Number 4, is it physically sound and feasible or responsible? Can we afford to do it? And last, how will we measure the impact? And finally, if I'm selected for this position, I can assure you that you will not be sorry. Thank you.
What a finish. Mr. Thomas, thank you very much. We appreciate your interest. The board is going to deliberate after we've spoken to each of the candidates, and you'll be informed as to our decision. So again, thank you.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
We're going to take a 5-minute break before we bring in the last candidate. Thank you.
You found your glasses. Your glasses. Yes, Mom. No, that's the
Good, how you? Good, man. What you think? Oh yeah, the one she get. Oh yeah, he get ready to I look back at home, you guys see. Yeah. We got
I want to call our session back to order. Our last interview is with Dr. Kevin Simmons. Good evening. Dr. Simmons, I was going to have you before you were seated to stand and just give a short introduction of yourself.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Those of you who already know, I'm sorry you get to hear this again. I am Kevin Simmons. I am, I say, happily married man, some 30 plus years. Today is the anniversary, so 32. We have 3 beautiful kids. One's 31. He's like a toy store vice president for a toy company. Our middle daughter lives in Key West. She's actually works for the insurance company. We do have a 21-year-old who's still going to community college. She's still at home. My wife, she is a master's degree from Western, and she is a high school English teacher. She's been at it for some 35. Yeah, because I'm 34 years, so she's been at it a year longer than I have. We live in South Lake, Michigan. However, we're very familiar with Muskegon Heights. When I was athletic director in Covert, I've been athletic director. I've been an elementary principal in Grand Rapids. I've been a middle school principal in Benton Harbor. I've been a high school principal in Benton Harbor and in Baltimore City Public Schools, Fort Wayne Community Schools. Fort Wayne Community Schools, my high school, about 2,300 kids. It's a small community movement every time the bell rang. Then went to Kellogg'sville, which is up in the Grand Rapids area. And from there, I had the opportunity to become superintendent in Penfield, Michigan, at Penfield Schools. I was there for about 3 years. Then I become now a dean of students in Waterville Elite Public Schools. I am excited about this opportunity. I'm actually honored because I know about the true tradition of being a Tiger here in Muskegon Heights. And thank you for this opportunity for coming back for a final interview.
Thank you. We're gonna have 30 minutes to conduct the interview. We're gonna receive questions from each of the board members. After that, you're gonna receive questions from the audience. And then you'll have an opportunity to do a question to the board, and then have final remarks.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
The first question: what do you believe are two long-standing challenges our district will need to address immediately? And how would your background and skills help us address those issues?
I would say the two major concerns, issues, would be finance and communication. And I'll start with finance. That we are, being able to work with a budget, understanding the state and federal guidelines when it comes to Title I funding, when it comes to grant writing, when it comes to making not only sure that you balance the budget, but making sure that the instructional funds that are used are mostly used for students and making sure they get what they need. Would say that the funding source from my previous district where I was superintendent, shared at the last meeting, is one to where the funding, and when I became superintendent and we went into the pandemic, going through that, being able to utilize the funds to help the community and our kids, and then being able to come out with a fund balance that was even higher than it was when I first went in, which is the thing about utilizing funding in finance. It is not my money. It is money that is utilized, that has come to us from the state so that we can get students what they need, and so that staff, teachers can be very efficient with the work that they do. So being efficient with funding is very important. The second thing is communication. I have communicated in numerous ways, and the manner in which you hear a number of people talk about transparency. And then you have a number of people that get frustrated because there are certain things, there are day-to-day operations that occur with the governing body of the school board and the superintendent. And some feel as if, well, you're keeping secrets, you're not telling us everything that's going on. As I shared before, there are confidentiality clauses, and you just can't disclose everything about what is occurring when it comes to governing a school district. One example would be a student that may have special needs. You can't go around mentioning the kid's name and saying this is that student, and then saying here's what their special need is, and here's what we're trying to do to help get them that support. That is totally uncalled for, and it's really unprofessional. So in order to do that, when we are talking as a board and as the governing body with the superintendent, you don't utilize names, even if it is a situation in which you're talking in general terms. You go with policies and you communicate that with the community. I must say, I've looked over the policies that we have here in Muskegon Heights, and a lot of them are outdated. Legal issues could easily occur because every year the board is responsible for approving budget, approving policy and policy changes, and the evaluation of the superintendent. That is the function of the school board. Everything else is a function of day-to-day operations, is what the superintendent does. If the board and the community is not appreciative or do not feel that the superintendent is doing that job, that is the board's job, is to evaluate the superintendent on that clause. But the hiring, the firing, the retention of teachers, all of those things are left to the superintendent to make sure that that's communicated with the community. And not only say, well, I'm just doing it because I'm a superintendent. You have to have what is considered reasonable details that you share with the community why changes take place. You just can't say just because I'm a superintendent, I just do it because I can do it. The same thing goes when we're talking about the way our school board functions with the superintendent. The superintendent of the school board is the governing body. There is a shared understanding of what work, and that work needs to be communicated. And being transparent needs to be communicated with our community so they know what the work is that we're doing every day, every week. Newsletters. The type of communication that I use is, one is an email, another is with the actual video that goes out. Text messages, the way we use PowerSchool, it is important that our community know their kids are safe, and we're here in the businesses of teaching and learning, and education is what we do at Muskegon High School. You're welcome.
Next question is coming from Ms. Kitchen Slater.
Maintaining healthy relationships with the school and community stakeholders is important to the Board of Education and to the Board of Directors. Could you share with us ways in which you have built and maintained successful relationships with school stakeholders?
I have worked in the manner of a lot of stakeholders. They don't get the opportunity to come out to the schools and actually see what is going on inside the schools. I've had opportunities to go out and visit them at their workplace and then invite them to come out to the school. Now, it is not a free-for-all, open doors, because it is about the safety of our kids. We don't just open it up and say, oh yeah, just come in anytime you want. Through opportunities, there are stakeholders that would hear, man, I understand the building's a mess. There's always stuff over in the hallway. It's not clean in these classrooms. It's like, that is your perception based on what you heard. I would love for you to come in and let's take an opportunity and I'll walk you through the building. Or should I say walk with you through the building? You're not like you're some elementary child. Walk with you through the building and take a look at some of these things that you might be concerned about. There are certain things that we say before we go on that tour. You might see your little niece, you may see your child, you may see your neighbor's child. Please do not have a conversation with the child if you think they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, because that is the only thing that could go wrong, is to be in the building and you see Philip, he's over there just kind of playing with his buddy, and you're like, oh, they're fighting. Go, get your hands off him. Like, whoa, we have adults here that are hired to take care of them. Because we don't want Philip to go home and tell Miss Johnson that Uncle Jeff came over and he was at the school, he was chewing me out, hurt my feelings. He was like, oh, you just let anybody come in there and talk to my child? So those communications, one is going out and having that conversation at their workplace. Another one, I mentioned before, I'll mention again, going to church, going to these events that are not occurring in the school. It is the superintendent's job to be that positive face, to go out and meet and interact with those stakeholders where they are. Students are stakeholders. Show up at an athletic event, not just because it's a home event. Go to an away event, not because it's just a varsity event. Go to a middle school or a JV event. Go to a girls event when there's a boys event at home. Why? Because there has to be a balance. Don't say, oh, well, the boys always, it's such a great, go watch the football team, go watch some volleyball games. Don't just go to the varsity. Meet and greet. Again, they may be sitting in the bleachers. Don't go up as the superintendent and just sit there and talk to them the whole time. They're there to watch their child or their grandchild. It is an opportunity to speak and interact. They also know it's a mutual respect. I'm not looking for them to come down out the stands and stand there for 10, 15 minutes talking to me, but I want to see the kids, and the kids want to see me going, yeah, good job, good job. Instead, I'm working, we're talking, hey, we can, if we need to take this longer instead of 5 minutes, maybe I can come out to your business, or you can come out and let's visit. Interacting with those stakeholders, making sure that they understand that we do hear what they're saying, our concerns. We do understand those things that are positive that we want to continue with. In that interaction with them and being able to come back with some feedback.
Thank you. Next question is coming from Mr. Fox.
Three-part question. I'll start with the first. If your most recent staff had to evaluate you, what do you think the rating would be on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest and why?
With the most recent staff, since I'm the dean of students for middle school and high school, middle school would say that it's a 10 and the high school would say it's a 9.5. Now, their rating is based on the fact that in my interaction with kids. 80% of my job is helping them with day-to-day, what they can do when they have a problem or an issue with other staff or with other students. And then I take the time and I talk to them about it. I don't take 30 and 40 minutes. It takes 5 or 10 minutes to listen and understand and give some helpful advice moving forward. The reason they would rate that way is because it didn't matter if you were the richest student from the richest family in the school district, or the most disadvantaged, or a special needs child, or the gifted and talented falls in between the different classes. They saw my interaction with each one. It wouldn't matter if they're black, white, if they were rich, poor, short, tall. It didn't matter because my conversation was the same. Students watch you from a distance. So my rating they would give is very supportive of the work that I've done. Again, that job of dean of students is the same as being an assistant principal in charge of discipline, or the principal who says we gotta make sure we're following policy. Because they knew that I knew those steps and I utilized them, even talking with parents, it was being supportive of the staff and the work that they were trying to do.
If a teacher is ineffective, how do you help them become more successful?
First, we don't beat them up out in front of everybody out in the hallway or in the class in front of students. There's a professional conversation that takes place. The first conversation is a coaching conversation. The coaching conversation is one to where they're in my office, and I model this for building administrators, making sure they understand a coaching conversation is at the round table or at the side of the table. First, starting with how many believe they've done within that class or that situation. The next thing is start to share with, if it was done differently, what would you do differently? Instead of giving the answer, it's just like we do with students. It's a critical thinking, allowing them to lean on what they know, on their knowledge. The third thing is now the feedback. And the feedback is not one that is demeaning. It's not one that is enticing. It's not one that is intimidating. It's one in which it is talking with a credible voice and saying, here's the next thing that you could do, and here's the reason why. And then the last step, leaving them with next steps and what they can actually do in the next type of situation. So that interaction is at the side of the desk in my office or at a round table. Let's say it is a situation that needs to be addressed because it either done physical or mental harm to the child. That's a different type of conversation that I also teach administrators. They sit across the desk. Anytime we have the situation where there's a teacher or a student that is sitting across the desk, that is the time where it may be reprimanded, and they have their representation in sliding that piece of paper across the table and saying, we've discussed this before, not like it's the first time. Here was the expectation, you did not follow the expectation. I need you to sign that I'm giving you this reprimand, because there's steps from reprimand to then it goes to warning, and then it goes to administrative leave. There's a number of steps. But I've had professionals to say, I'm not signing that. That's just fine. Because I'm going to sign where you didn't sign and say, you decided you were not going to sign this at this time and this date, and it's still going in your personnel file. So it doesn't matter if they signed it or not. It was giving them the opportunity. These are those legal pieces that come into play. Two types of conversations. Coaching session, I'm here to help. I want to see you change and do some of those things that I'm recommending to you because I've been there. I was the teacher for 11 years. I know what it feels like. The other is an authoritative position. Now you're across the desk.
Last part, how would you spoke on feedback, but how would you use feedback loops to help coach them as far as reaching their goals for the school?
So when we start doing the next steps, those next steps, we say, this is what we're gonna look for the next time that you have this situation, or you're in the class and you taught this lesson. The next question is, what can I do to help you do better at what it is you're trying to get to on the next step? Because I am the support person. If I'm just saying, do it, no, do it, because that's a stressful situation. That's accountability without support. Giving us support without the accountability everybody's gonna be happy, but nothing's being done for our kids in the classroom or in the building. So we need that accountability and support. That last question has to be, what can I do to help support the work that you're doing as you move forward with these next steps?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question, Ms. Marat.
Given your research on our district, what do you believe our vision for the future should be, and how might you engage the district and our community in pursuit of this vision?
I believe that academically, I would start, you know what, let me put it in this manner. We need to be epic in the stance that we're going to take. When it comes to being epic, that E is being efficient. That is the financial manner in which we approach funds that are coming in, grants that we are writing, those that are already here, those grants and those funding, and then being able to help support the programming that is taking place. We need to be very efficient with it. Not, again, well, that sounds good, so we're gonna use data to help support why we're moving in that direction. Being very efficient. We're gonna be productive. We're going to have wins, and we're going to move forward and being able to show we've had some great things occur within the classroom with teachers and in our community. And then let's make sure that we put that out there. We had an attendance that was low. Now it has increased. The attendance has increased, and then we're going, hey, look, we want everyone to know kids are coming to school. Staff is coming to school. And that they're here, and there's positive things occurring. We need to put that out there into the community. Making sure that we show that then comes into the next step. So first is being efficient. The next is being productive. The I, we need to be inclusive. There are kids and teachers and staff that don't feel like they belong here in the building working for Muskegon Heights. They feel that way because either the interaction with other adults as they walk through the halls, or they feel that way, students, because they may be a school of choice, student coming in. Or it may be a child who feels like they're introvert, but they don't want to interact with a number of kids. There's ways in order to do that. Being a Tiger should be something they feel proud about. And it doesn't mean that I have to be on the basketball team or out on the football team or in swimming. It means that I have friends. We teach administrators on how they notice what kids feel like they're not feeling like they belong. They're not inclusive. They don't feel like they belong. So we have being efficient, being productive, being inclusive, and then C, for the epic, better communicators. When it comes to the interaction adults to adults, adults with students, student to student interactions, how we communicate. If we presume positive intentions, that a student, for some reason, all of a sudden he goes, I say he, because it's she either, they pinch their finger between a couple of desks and they drop it, the D word. And they, oh! And the teacher's like, oh, we don't use profanity in this building, you know, that's not part of our positive interventions and behaviors. And it's like, okay, well, why did that actually occur? Let's have a different type of conversation with the student. Oh, I didn't realize that the other student pushed their desk over and accidentally pinched the kid's finger. At least the student didn't look to start using profanity on the student that pinched their finger. It was an accident. Presuming positive intentions, maybe the student needs a piece of ice to calm down that finger that's just throbbing. Communication, how we talk to each other. We model that with each other in the hallways as adults. Students pick up on that. If I'm not speaking to Miss Smith and she's coming down the hall, I'm looking all outside the wall, the kid's gonna be like, superintendent, he didn't like Miss Smith. But then if all of a sudden I'm speaking to Miss Smith, the same that I'm speaking to every other adult that is in the building, secretaries, custodians, even teachers, administrators, there is a feel for that communication. So for our district and community, it's to become epic. Make sure that we are efficient, make sure we're productive, make sure we are inclusive, and that we are better communicators. You're welcome.
Our next question comes from Ms. Christian Slater.
Please describe the experience you have with focusing on the achievement of special education students and ensuring they are receiving programming to meet their needs.
Absolutely. I have a true love for our special needs kids. My mom, she taught special education for 42 years at Thrasher High School in Thrasher, Mississippi. She had taught kids of kids who were still coming back to her class. I remember she giving me my first opportunity to sub in her classroom when I was doing my student teaching. The students understood that you still have goals. You may be CI. That means cognitively impaired. That just means you don't learn as fast as other students, but you're still smart. You can still get the work done. You may need a little extra time. You may be LD, learning disabled. Means the same thing, except it's not as severe as cognitively impaired. You may be EMI or EI, emotionally impaired. Those are also students to where they have certain things that occur and it's like, oh man, I know, I just shouldn't have done that. The one thing that we make sure with our kids is that you have goals that you're trying to meet. There are accommodations that our teachers are doing to try to help those kids along. There is a legal aspect as to what has to be performed to support them. And then as they go from elementary to middle school to high school, students, some become reevaluated because the diagnosis may have been off or may have changed. Yes, there are some of our special needs kids who have medication that they need to take. Being confidential and having these conversations with those students. But with our special needs kids, there needs to be a clear understanding that, yes, we have some that they get what's called a certificate of completion. Some get diplomas, and they still walk the stage when it's time as a senior to graduate. Some, we have services that go until they're 26 years old. It is working with those agencies to help support our kids through the ISD, through the local agencies. So our special needs kids are, as I would say, as special as everyone else who is trying to help them. We need to be attentive to their needs, and then we need to make sure that we're following those legal guidelines that say, here's the things that we need to do to help support them. And again, our administrators working with the teachers, so the teachers know that we are trying to help those students also.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question is from Mr.
What steps would you take if one of our buildings is short staff and subs aren't available?
There's 2 or 3 type of steps that can be taken. One is making sure that we have funding within the actual, within the budget, to where we ask teachers to where they can actually step in and sub for those classes, and we utilize those subs. We actually should have subs that are full-time subs that we have in the building throughout the day, to where every day they're reporting, and they're considered subs that are right on hand, because there's emergencies that occur. There's sometimes teachers, there's accidents that occur, especially when it's the winter time. They have sick child and they don't know that till they get up the next morning. Another step is we've taken students within classes and we're able to take teachers, say we have 20 students in a class. We've had teachers to say, if you're paying me for subbing, then I'll take 5 of those students. She'll take 5 and she'll take 5 because we're all in teaching the same grade level. There's the other staff that are considered eligible to be subs, and that is making sure we have our parapros to where they have their hours and able to utilize. The one thing that we don't do is we don't put ourselves in a reactive mode when we start the school year. Staffing is one that is made to where we plan for those situations. And we plan for those situations by having those long-term subs already in buildings. And when there's not a class for them to sub in, then they become a co-teacher, a support teacher with a class that is being taught. Everyone could use the extra help with math. Need to be in the elementary or the middle school, some with the high school, and some are subs because they are qualified, can help with the algebra and the geometry. Those are opportunities to be proactive so we don't put ourselves in a situation where teachers are out for whatever reason, which is going to be a personal or emergency reason, and having a classroom where we do not have a qualified adult in the classroom to support our kids.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our last question is two parts. What are the key elements needed to establish and maintain a good working relationship between yourself and the board?
So there is a shared understanding that occurs with the superintendent and the board. My work with the MASB and those certifications that board members have gotten is that first we do a retreat, and in the retreat is a clear understanding of my job and how I'm supposed to perform. And there's an actual evaluation form that is used on that. But it also talks about the school board's responsibilities when it comes to 3 of their responsibilities. It is about policy, it is about budget, and evaluating the superintendent. Now, communication, as I mentioned before, is one that has to be, how can I say, very reliable. A situation occurs to where the superintendent sends out a message, and that message makes it to school board members come in 3 forms. If I send you an email, 24, 48 hours, you have to respond, just like I would do when I'm getting the same information with building administrators and with parents. The second is a text message. If I send you a text message, that means sometime within the next 24 hours before the sun goes down, you'll want to interact back. We don't send emails, reply all. That's a violation of the actual board's rights in what we do with Open Meetings Act. You don't reply all. It is reply back if there's an email, or it's just informational that I'm sending to you. And you go, oh, that's right. Don't send it back saying, oh, that's right, and reply all. That's the email. The second one is a text message. Text message is a little more important, meaning, hey, got something going on, I need you to know, and I need you to call me, or we need to, touch bases on this. I need you to understand what's happening by the time it gets out into the community, so the board doesn't feel like you're being blindsided. And then there's the phone call. If you call, even if I need to step out of a meeting, I will answer the phone. The mutual understanding is if I call you, I need you to answer the phone. That means something is happening. I will leave a message and say, you may be in the middle of another meeting or an emergency. You may have a family member. You may be at the hospital. I don't know. But I am going to leave that message saying it is highly important that you call me back. Email has about 24 to 48 hours. A text message has to be answered back before the dark, before the end of the day. And then a phone call, that's that communication that says, I'm trying to keep you updated because this is probably going to get there and you need to be there to understand what's happening before it occurs. Here's an example. An ambulance shows up at one of our schools. It shows up at one of the schools. All time, you can hear it when it's coming in, and you can hear it when it stops and it's in front of one of our schools. You need to know why. You do not need to be waiting to understand, oh, I heard from the secretary, or no, I got it from one of the kids' parents said that, that the student broke his leg, or, oh no, there was this accident, somebody got cut. Those things you should be getting straight from the superintendent when it's pulling up. If you don't get it, it's because I've got administrators at that building. Secretaries are really good about letting me know. Because what do? I go to the scene. We have school bus get hit by a car. The kids are fine. Superintendent goes to the bus, steps on, hey, everybody doing all right? Doing okay? Yeah, this car, I understand, but you're okay, right? Okay, no, we got these nice people gonna come on, they're gonna check you out. And then we're gonna make sure we call each one of your parents, and then we're going to get you to school. Now, you may not go to school because your parents may think you don't pick you up and say that's it. But the message about a bus getting hit by a car is already out there. By the time I'm calling and sending the text message to the board members, your question should be, are all the kids okay? Are the kids okay? And I'm saying the kids are okay. Why do I know that? Because I'm looking at them. I'm looking at them while they're on the bus. Those are type of emergencies. If garbage wasn't taken out of the building the night before, don't call me. Send me a text message. That is not as important as a bus getting hit by a car. That's the mutual understanding that we're working as a board and governing the district. We know what it is that you do as a board. You know what I do as superintendent, and we share with the community how we work together to govern.
The next part of that question has to do with transparency and conflict of interest. Give us information in regards to your knowledge of the board, when you became, informed as to this process, how you may have been informed of the process, and any conflicts of interest that you may know of or not.
Yes. Well, I had a situation when I became superintendent, the policies.
No, with this board.
Oh, with this board?
This board.
Oh, okay.
Any conflicts of interest?
Conflicts of interest with this board. I'm trying to think. I have not heard of any. As far as,
Do you know any of us before the application process was in place?
no, I do not. I do not know any of you. I've read, and again, reading what is in the news or hearing what is in the news is different from speaking directly to someone. I don't go by hearsay. It's just like if I have a building administrator that all of a sudden a teacher tells me the building administrator cussed them out. And they were just all upset, they mistreated me, they did this in front of all kind of kids. Well, I don't go by the assumption that that's one side of the story. I have to go and speak with that administrator. And during that day, sometime have that conversation. So conflicts of interest, as far as this board, I gotta share honestly, I am not aware.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're going to provide you with an opportunity to ask the board any questions that you might have.
I want to make sure this is the final round right? And so now that I know this is the final round, my last would be, you'll be sharing with me after answer questions for the community. You would share what next steps. Would that be correct? Okay, then that's the only thing I have to ask.
At this time, we'll entertain questions from the audience.
Again, I'll be able to talk to them. Nope. Okay.
First question. Are you the same individual that the board of directors wanted to hire as the auditor for the district?
Not as the auditor, no. No, I did put in a independent contract to help as a guidance with the seniors that had an opportunity to graduate, but they didn't, because my work with Power School and with guidance and understanding what classes students need in the utilization of a recovery class, I did put in and say I can help with that, and would have been able to help with some of the kids that didn't graduate, that could have walked the stage. And be able to set them up now to where they may need summer school. And with that, needing summer school, making sure they still have a chance to graduate, even though they get a chance to go off the stage. But no, I'm not the same person when it comes to an actual audit. No.
Next question.
This district is in a state of PTSD from past and current management companies. This doesn't have a name on it, so we need a name on this before we read it. Okay, so this district is in a state of PTSD from past and current management companies and authorizing board as well as academy board decisions. How would you heal some of this trauma?
Yeah, I would start by saying that my experience is that as a board, the community needs a clear understanding that I'm not just being hired as a superintendent of schools. I'm also hired as the chief academic officer. I'm also hired as the chief human relations officer. I'm also hired as the assistant business officer and the assistant special ed director. Why? Because this job encumbers a lot of work when it comes to what steps need to be taken out of each one of those areas in order for our district to move forward. My job is not sitting in the office and telling everybody what they need to do, but at this point, showing them that here is best practice in how that job is being done. So when we talk about academics, we're talking about the curriculum, we're talking about what's being taught, and we're talking about how to help teachers become better at the jobs that they are. And we have teachers at all levels. We have those that are veteran, and they are great at what they do. They also ask to be challenged. They don't want to be sitting and being bored. They say, give me a challenge. And then we have those that say, man, I'm kind of struggling in this area. As a chief academic officer, I'm able to help that teacher become a better teacher. When we're talking about the human resources and human relations director, that is going to help with that interaction also. The retention and the recruitment of staff. Notice I didn't just say teachers. We're talking about staff, highly qualified people who are there, but want to know that if I'm coming to work for a district, that at least the person that's in charge understands how the system works. You've heard everybody say, and a lot of adults that would say, you need to know the rules of the game to play the game. I know the rules of the game to play the game. But it is in the benefit for the district. So with all of the questioning that may occur, my record speaks for itself when I said before, each job that I've held, even the last one that I'm in now, I have been rated as effective or highly effective in those positions. So that will help with a lot of the questioning because you don't have to just wear the name as a doctor to be able to do, but you have had those before, but they have not had all the experience of being a dean of students, an athletic director, an elementary principal, middle school principal, high school principal, superintendent, doing those jobs and being effective and highly effective, which is going to help with that question. Or should I say to answer that question?
How much time do you have? This has several questions.
Yeah, I think probably better do one more.
I'm gonna finances, or do you plan on being in the superintendent position long, and do you plan on living in the area?
That is a very good question. The contract negotiations, like I did when I was superintendent in Penfield out in Battle Creek, that was a part of living in the area, was written into the contract. And as far as how long I plan on being a superintendent, I still have 7, 8 years. Our daughter, I mentioned earlier, is 21, and by all means, even though my wife is still teaching, I'll be honest with you, our daughter's gonna need insurance till she's 26 years old. So I'm still gonna be working. So it's my intent for 7, 8 years in. My plan is a 3 to 5 year plan, and then we rewrite those plans, just like we do with strategic planning for the district. Hopefully that helps to answer that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're giving an opportunity to give your closing remarks to everyone.
I would say that again, I applied for this position because I'm familiar with districts whose financial woes and with their academic performance not meeting what we know. We have some smart kids that we needed, that those scores can be higher. And knowing how to recruit and knowing how to retain good staff. Again, not just teachers, because staff, because once we all are on the same page and have one voice, we can all do what is needed to be done for all of our Tigers, regardless of how little or how small or how old they are, that we can take care of them all. But it takes every staff member knowing that we are working toward a better school district. Other than that, I appreciate the opportunity for a final interview.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simmons. We are going to have discussions.
Thank you.
Candidates, and we'll be in touch. You'll hear from us.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
It's now time to deliberate on candidates. And so the first step of that is you have some input forms from the community that you need to review each of them. I have them organized by candidate, so each candidate has several input forms. I'm going to give them, I'll start with Mr. Fox and over, and then I'd like to just pass them through so you make sure you read every one of them, and I'll make sure they come around the table to Mr. Fox after that. And then it's time to deliberate and talk about the three candidates. I encourage you to think about things you noticed and things you wonder about candidates, right? So we don't have this labor this way. What do you notice about candidates? What are you wondering about still, et cetera? And I will try to help guide the consensus, but ultimately it's your decision to make, which is the consensus. So we try to get down to the candidate. And if we get there, you make a motion of one candidate to then enter into negotiations with for your motion. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, we're going to take some time to read through these, and then we'll start deliberation.
Bang on that left dog. No, that's
Oh, they share it. You face it. I was just a second, yes.
So, 313, C, Saginaw High. You're the same.
Draymond Green second on high?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, they get really close. Second on high, and another year they could.
Well, Andy started at the elementary school. Middle school first started, like 49, 50, changed over to. But that's just human beings. Did you ever see them before? I said, God is it. It is shady. Big old.
I don't have any more
Tell me what's gonna be.
because I didn't bring them. Because you don't need to keep coming back. Yeah.
No. Jason Richardson.
Oh, nasty, nasty, what you talk about?
He put money back. I don't know if Draymond did.
That's not good.
Well, you know, it's like, it's all the auto.
Yeah,
Johnny,
they lost.
yes.
And it's like,
What? No, Papa.
It's on
Eating candy. That's nice. Good job. Why? Good. But already. Yes, Papa. No, Papa. I did not eat any candy.
I might be out of here.
Mama, Sunny, Sunny.
Grass, look.
Looks good.
well, you know, I remember when
Then no more grass grow after that.
You want to go to the dentist? Okay.
Well.
Because you like candy?
Well, it's the image now. Don't want people to buy. Just don't turn right. Just don't turn right.
Does it work? Does it work? Oh, the doctor. You think? Oh, no. Oh, I don't know, buddy. You're welcome. All better. Hey, why don't you show Mr. Corey your Spider-Man? Go ahead, go show Mr. Corey Spider-Man. Be Spider-Man. How do you do Spider-Man? Do it. No. Oh, we're doctors right now. I definitely can't change. Oh. Oh, are you okay? No, you can't let the issue. You can check my arm. Am I okay? You cannot let the
It's a start. You know, this is junior.
Am I okay? Am I better?
Did you poop? Did you poop? Are you sure?
Both sides.
Did you poop?
I like the north side.
Can I take, do I need to paper?
There's either young people or old people, a lot of one-story houses.
Let me take pictures.
A lot of one-story, one-story and a half. But they're all alike. So now, what I'm saying.
Where'd you put it, honey?
I know that. We should work on it.
Let go.
That's hilarious.
Tawanda, my name is Dale, this is my sister Julia. And our last name is
So you could teach a job.
We're very.
I think I talked to a couple of teachers. And they just.
Mama? Mama?
Torin! Torin! Right here. Oh.
I'm running.
At this time, we're going to have public comments. 3 minutes can not interrupted. And comments only, no questions, just comments. There are slips, I think, in the rear that you can sign up for public comments. You have 3 minutes for those comments. That's okay, just sign your name and just put comment.
I just, after listening to the interviews Monday and today, that we pray and do the right thing for this district. That's all I ask the board to do the right thing for this district. This district's tired. We need to move in a different direction. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other comments? If no other comments, then we'll move right into the next segment.
Discussion time. So again, encourage you to talk about things you noticed, and things you want your candidates, and it's a discussion amongst the board, not with me. So, if the board of you are having a conversation, I will look at that if I need to, but it's before we get through this final decision.
So.
You're talking to the
Okay, which candidate you want to start from the top and work down, or how would you want to handle this? Okay. Ms. Crockett was our first interviewee. Any comments in regards to her comments or things she might have said, things that you noticed in regards to her presentation?
Some things I wrote down was the 20 IEPs she said she did in the last 3 weeks. To me, that's kind of disturbing. We should have been on IEPs all year when the ISD came in and reported on that. She also said that we have been complaining all year, which I don't think is true. I'm guessing special ed. I think that's when she answered that question. And a couple times I feel like she kind of got off of the topic that we were asking about. And again, this is just my opinion. Again, we don't even have to get into all those comments that we just received. Like Ms. Slater said, it's 2 sides to every story, but me personally, I've been getting complaints about Edgewood all year. So I just want to put that out there for the board.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I think that, she had, I think that her answers to all of our questions were, concise. I think she has some good ideas. I recognize that, there were some issues, from staff perspective, at Edgewood, and that's only from hearsay, it's nothing that I personally, observed. But I've heard things, but, I think she has some ideas that could be, implemented.
There's a flat pick.
Nothing really specific from the questions, but, or the answers that she gave. Mr. Fox indicated, about the IEPs. I don't know what, due dates were. We all know that we had issues with IEPs across the district. I don't know if those 20, I guess that would be a question to follow up on, if the 20 IEPs that were done, were those laid, where would they fall in the spectrum of what we've been dealing with the district? I think that would be a good question, or good information to have.
If I could, just for that specific one point, I think that it was due March 15th. I'm not sure, but I know it's due before the last 2 weeks of school. By myself being an educator and currently working in education, I know we did IEPs a long time ago.
No, I mean the specific ones, because all IEPs aren't due at the same, everybody's IEPs aren't due at the same time. We have different time frames for each child, so that's what I mean.
Right.
So it might have been, I don't know if those were, out of the 20, which ones were due at that time, or which ones were late.
Yeah, I'm just speaking as far as compliance, as far as where I work, it's due before the 3rd week of school is approached.
Right, so I don't even know what she's sticking up for.
Yes, information was on point. I didn't hear a lot of interaction with teachers and what kinds of resolve come up with and interacting with those persons. This is very, the information is sequential in manner. empowering teachers and students and have areas of disagreement, how was that resolved? That's an important piece that needs to be looked at. And I didn't see that often in some of the responses.
Thank you. I did the references for each of the candidates. And comments from her references that she's a go-getter, reliable, knowledgeable, but also that her style of management sometimes didn't always include the kind of interaction with the staff that was needed. That, you know, even if you're in charge, either principal of a particular situation or you're superintendent of a situation, you really have to take everything into consideration. And there were some comments from some of the references that didn't always occur. They did say that she was a visionary, that she does know the rules, she does know protocol, but there were some concerns about interpersonal relations from the references that I telephoned. My observations and from this evening was that strategically and from the book, Ms. Crockett knows the protocol, she knows the ins and outs, but application is always important. And I think that if you're going to be a leader, that even if you have the knowledge base, that you really have to be able to apply that in a way that brings cohesiveness to the group that you're working with. And it's important to have good interpersonal relationships. Communication skills are important. And with those things intact and being something that the staff can receive, there can be a working unit. You can work as a unit. With that not being in place, then you have mayhems, other things that occur. So my concern is, her presentation was excellent. All the bells and whistles. But application of that is also very important, and I just have a little concern about that.
You want to check the next candidate?
Next candidate would be Mr. Holmes. Mr. Fox, any comments regarding the interview with Mr. Holmes?
Can we start on the other end this time?
Ms. Minot, any comments in regards to our interview with Mr. Holmes?
As you said, Mr. Holmes is a go-getter, has practical information about how to get things done. As far as interacting with teachers, with students, I think he knows how to do that well. I'm not sure about the information as far as superintendent aspect of some of the other levels that he may not have been privy to. So I'm thinking he may need to be stronger in those areas for his office, for his
Hello. First off, I'll start by saying that we've been saying that we wanted someone local all year. Not only is he local, but he's been loyal. He said he came 22 years ago from Mississippi. As far as I know, if he did go back, he went back briefly. When he came back to education, he came back to Muskegon Heights. I'm sure he's qualified to work anywhere in Muskegon. And he chose to come back to Muskegon Heights even after he was told by a certain company that he would be interview for a principal position or a higher position, he was still given the assistant principal position, and he still has been achieving above and beyond. Every time I go to the middle school, he's in the classroom. Every time I'm in the middle school, he's still trying to greet parents and do his job as a dean or assistant principal, I'm sorry. So he's doing multiple tasks already. I think we should consider him as our superintendent. He's been here a while. And some of the things I highlighted that he kept talking about was training and evaluations for our teachers, professional development, data analysis. That is the thing that drives the world. And he spoke on that, and he understands that that's how we get information, that's how we get funds. He spoke about IEP and 504 plans. When you asked him about special ed, the first thing he said was that was his heart. So these key points are some things that I've been listening out for and talking to our superintendent where I work to listen out for. He brought up HBCU college recruitment. He brought up Grand Valley. He brought up Western, so he knows West Michigan. There's not really much else that I have on here besides he's a Tiger through and through. His kids are Tigers. We don't have to worry about if he's moving to Mesquite because he's already here. He said he has a good relationship with Randy from the ISD. So, I mean, I can keep going, but I don't think I need to.
The references from Mr. Holmes was that he was compassionate, trustworthy, straightforward leader. Students and staff respected his method of fairness. He did not waver in his commitment to educational excellence. What else is in here? Respectful, concerned about safe environment for students, was able to diffuse most challenging situations, surrounds himself with people who could get the job done. I too have found Mr. Holmes to be consistent, to be a person that is very conscientious about his job and what he does. He loves his students. He's committed in those areas that are important for educating our students. One concern I have is his ability to be able to, even though he has knowledge of how to make it happen here, connecting collaborative engagements, what he can do at the state level, what can happen outside of Mesquite, and how can we, how he will be able to take us into those areas where we may need to know about on a more vast nature. He's very supportive. He understands. He's very supportive. He understands, but I'm just concerned about that next step of being able to do the collaborative interaction and to connect us in areas on a state level. I'm concerned about that. So that's my comments in regards to Mr. Holmes.
I like Mr. Holmes. I think he gave a very good interview. I do like the fact that he is already here. He is local, so you don't have to worry about him moving here or wonder, if he's going to be here daily. I do know that. I just recall a conversation I had with him in the earlier part of the year. Some concerns were brought up that he wasn't getting a lunch. And so I was talking to him about that, and he said, you know what? I've done this job long enough to know how to get a lunch, how to eat when I need to eat. There's something to that effect that he said. And what he said is, I'm used to eating on the go. There's a lot of opportunities when I'm in the school, or a lot of times in the school when I won't have the opportunity to have a lunch. So I just do what I need to do to get things done. So I do like the aspect. I like the fact that he does connect with students. I think my only concern, is, you know, making sure things are done timely, like following up with things timely, because I've had some situations where we didn't get some information that we were supposed to get, in a timely manner, so that's probably minuscule, in relation to the pros or the things that I think he brings to the table, but by the same token, getting things done timely can be critical in a lot of important situations.
Okay, and your final candidate, Mr. Simmons. Sorry, Dr. Simmons. excuse me.
Dr.
Dr.
Simmons,
Simmons.
yes. From his references, he has been a superintendent for a number of years. He, at one time, was over about a student body of 1,500 and responsible for everything in the area of discipline and budgets and the whole area of supervision. His references says that he works in difficult environments and that he is very calm and reasonable, a very good negotiator. With him, students come first. He believes in handling situations head-on with affected parties. He's high energy and a careful planner and initiator. Open, friendly, professional approach to challenges. He is a visionary, great follow-through, leads by example. He was provided superintendent leadership during the COVID situation, and he made certain that the community and the students and the staff were kept apprised as to what was going on with that whole situation. He displayed skills and tact in dealing with students, parents, and the public. He had probably more references than the other candidates, but good reports on him. My comments in regards to Dr. Simmons is that he has more superintendent experience than the other candidates, that he's been engaged not only on local levels, but at the state level as well, that he's quite familiar with budgets and being able to, he negotiated at one time for bonds issued to be voted upon, and because of his interaction and his action in the community, that bond was passed. One person that is the manager or over the MASA said that in his negotiating skills, he made the difference in two key areas that they needed support in, and said that if she had a position, that she would certainly put Dr. Simmons in there, and we would have the opportunity to even interview him. So lots of skill, lots of experience, and that's who he is.
I agree that he has a lot of experience. I know he talked at the first interview about the last position he held as superintendent and some issues there. He was open about that. I do think he has a vast knowledge. I don't think that a lot of the questions he gave answers to.
What?
Based on the question. I mean, the information was good. I think the information wasn't good, but I think as it relates to the question, if we're talking about the interview, I don't know how well he did that. I do like that he has a vast experience as being a superintendent. My only question or concern would be, because he really didn't answer it, is what is his plan in terms of if he was hired relocation, like would he move it? What is his plan with that? Because I don't think that driving back, I don't know where, the place he lives now, I don't know how far that is from here, but I don't know how commuting would work, so that would be my only concern.
Couple of things I wrote down. When we asked about the two long-standing challenges, he said finance and communication. Before anything, I just think it should be academics for these kids. Then he went on to mention grant writing and instructional funds, efficiency with funding, funding again. He's talking about Epic, he said something about funding. Making sure we have funds for teachers, more about funding. So just for me as a treasurer, I'm trying not to make it, I don't want to keep going through issues with funding. I'm already getting too much sleep with funding. I'm not saying it'll be an issue with him, but for him to mention that many times without mentioning academics a lot of times, it's kind of like, what direction are we really trying to go? What else do I have? When we talked about if we didn't have enough teachers and what would he do about the subs, he said make sure we have funds for teachers, full-time subs in the building, split teachers, split the students between teachers if needed, utilizing parapros, which are all good things, but I didn't hear him say he was sub. If we short, which a lot of times we are, and hopefully this fall we won't be, we need somebody that's willing to step into that classroom, step into the lunchroom if you need to, whatever you need to do at that moment to be a leader. I think that needs to be highlighted. So we short, you need to be making sure we're not short of stepping in, trying to figure something out. So, I mean, closing, I just think Mr. Holmes had a 30 to 60, 30 to 90 day plan already ready for us. We laid into the school year already, school will be out next week. And I just hope we go the right way.
I just felt that he talked to, I felt that, can you hear me now? He talked about finance and communication as Mr. Bott stated. Information that he gave appears to be information that would be necessary to be a superintendent. There's some information we may know practically, but we have to know some other information. And he has practiced being a superintendent. Some things you won't know about a person until they actually get in the job. And so I feel that he has practiced being a superintendent. He has answers for some of the questions, or many of the questions that we asked of him. And that I think he may be able to fit and to work with students, teachers, get information to all the levels that we need to have them put in place, and yes.
So based on comments I've heard, we really have two candidates you want to continue to deliberate about, Mr. Holmes and Dr. Simmons. I think based on what I'm just seeing more positives than negatives for those two candidates. So I would narrow it down to those two, have some more discussion. You don't have to go each by each. You can just have some open dialogue about those two candidates and how you're feeling about those two candidates. And think about what they said in their interview tonight, comments you've heard them say, etc. So the way those two, we're narrowing down those two something.
When it comes to Mr. Holmes, he is a great guy. I mean, I interact with him and knows his heart. My only concern is having it on paper and actually being able to implement it, actually making sure that you can get it done in a timely manner. On paper is one thing, but actually implementing it and following it through, and having the wherewithal to do that, I do have a question in that regard for Mr. Holmes. With Dr. Simmons, it would be important for him to either live in the area, because the transporting back and forth might pose a problem, so I would have a question in that regards for him. As far as skill sets, he has had, experience as being a superintendent. And I don't know comparatively how much he's had compared to Mr. Holmes, but probably a bit more than that. So for me, that's a plus for Dr. Simmons.
And just want to remind you that we need to talk to each other about this and what you guys are feeling. So it's not me to try to get answers. You need to talk to those folks about what you're feeling about candidates.
When we talk about experience, that's good and all, but how are we gonna know if someone can be a good superintendent if they don't ever get the chance to do it? He's been here for 22 years and he hasn't even, I don't even know if he's ever been interviewed before this year. We have to look at loyalty, we have to look at impact. Just because he has been a superintendent longer, what is that impact like? Where has he changed schools around? I'm not saying he hasn't, but I haven't seen that in those references where he says he's turned around a school or he has this experience at doing these great things. We have to look at impact. And when I think about Mr. Holmes, I think about the impact he had on my life. I think about the impact he had on all these kids that came after me and before me. So when you think about impact, you think about those kids that come back to the school, and are they coming back to their old principals and talking to them, or are they walking past them? All the kids I see come back that went to school with me are going to Mr. Holmes every time they see him. They're going to Mr. Cooper. They're going to Ms. Fisher. And these are people that were an integral part of our education system and making us thrive as Muskegon Heights students. So I just think we gotta look at reality here. We can't keep making mistakes. We gotta take care of our own. We gotta stay tight. We've worked through a lot this year with the Board of Education and PSA boards. We've worked through a lot. We've got to a point where we can communicate and not argue. And I think with having a strong black male that's been here for 20 plus years in that position, we bring kids back, we train the right teachers, and we'll get our school back to where we need to be.
I
Amen.
think in any situation, like even, both have been superintendents. Before Mr. Holmes has been superintendent, as well as Dr. Simmons has been a superintendent. I don't know where the scale tips in terms of, where we go, because when I was a manager, I never managed before. Had to get trained for that when I became one. So I think that the training piece is going to be important either way, because even with experience as a superintendent, I think anyone coming into Heights is coming into a different dynamic. So you have to be able to understand what that dynamic is. I think that, I don't know. I don't.
You know you don't.
It's hard to put into words when I'm thinking in my head, but I don't know that. I like that Mr. Holmes is here already. In the first interview, I think Dr. Simmons did talk a lot about what you were saying about, what he has done to turn schools around, and he gave us some information about that. And I don't know if you got that information from not being here that day. He did talk about those things, but I think that we do have a lot to consider, because this is we had a critical moment, a critical point. And what we decide to do to move forward, it has to include the best interest of the students. Now, with that said, both candidates have indicated that they have the best interest of students. Mr. Holmes, I think, where he kind of tips the scale a little bit, is that we know what his commitment is to our students, because we see it. Dr. Simmons, we have on paper what his commitment has been to students. We have not necessarily had the opportunity to see it. But that don't mean it's not there. So I guess right now, I just gotta kind of hear more discussion.
They say all that just to the sideline. Don't know.
We know Mr. Holmes, he's been here, 22 years he's been here, he's been dedicated, he's put time, energy, effort into it, the students know him, and he's been a solid representative for the school. Dr. Simmons is new. We don't know much about him. He could go either way. We don't know. But based on his first interview, he did talk about interaction with students and staff and his commitment about turning schools around. He did have that information before us. The questions tonight, he didn't answer them all based on what I would say he answered them, on some of the questions, but he gave his perspective in that regard. Based on the references, the people I talked to in regards to who knows him, spoke highly of him. Talked about the turnarounds that he did in the school districts and his interaction on different boards and that kind of thing. So he does have the respect of the superintendent community. Either way we go, it's gonna be a decision that we make, and we don't know how it's gonna come out. All we know is that based on our challenges, based on where we are, where we wanna go, a person's gonna have to be tenacious, will have to be one that can build collaborations, that can get stakeholders involved, help us get out of the neighborhoods and let people know that we want students that aren't here to come back and be a part of what we're trying to build. And it's going to be a challenge for all of us. Either gentleman probably would have the wherewithal to pull it off. I don't know who would do better than the other. It's just we're gonna have to vote our conscience on this. So.
Yeah, so I might want to add to this that hopefully you can come to a consensus on this and have a vote that's in confidence of either candidate. Yeah, I did hear three of you say that local loyalty is important to you, so that might be a factor for you to consider. We want to make sure that we can have a vote tonight that is hopefully full of confident in the candidate you bring forward.
Well, I think, not only that, it's not just, we live locally, we know it's a community too. So when you talk about stakeholders and maybe convincing people to, invest in the district, the school. I think Mr. Holmes might have the upper hand in that area. When you think about that, could Dr. Simmons do that problem? I mean, he seems very personal. Seems like he can get the attention of a room, but I don't know if we want to, or me, I should say me. I don't know if I want to risk the time it's gonna take to get to know what this community is about, as opposed to having someone who already has that knowledge.
I agree.
I mean, that's my, I don't know if it's my final thought, but what's somebody else? I would like to ask something. was going to transpire, he's going to falter, but I think at the end of the day, we have to be, this is what I just want to be a board member. So I would want to have a superintendent who's able to do those things that need to be done so that we're not doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Yeah, that's what I want. And I think that, you know, we have to be prepared, because one thing that I wish we had done that we did not do, when I initially held the board, we gotta evaluate. We gotta evaluate. If things aren't going right, we telling you what it is, and you gotta get it right. And whoever we get, I think we're in the position where we might be riding somebody back for a minute until we get stuff, you know, straightened out. And then be able to pull back the reins. But at the end of the day, I just want to be, conduct my duties as a board member, and let the superintendent do what the superintendent's supposed to be doing. And it is gonna be big. He gonna have to pull out.
Do we have the time to train and be patient?
Yeah, you was in the same boat. We was patient with you.
I'm talking to the board.
Good. Yeah.
Yes, we have time to be patient. We've
So in
been
the
patient all
event
year.
that we move forward with what we
That's when I
have on
like
the
about
table,
patience. We was patient with you.
and we find that those things that we anticipate happening don't happen, then we're back at another decision.
Oh, we not necessarily, not necessarily.
I'm just hypothetical.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I say that because, and I'm just taking it from the perspective of the job that I have, because that's where I have the most knowledge. When we hire, new staff, their evaluation period. There's 3, 6, you don't go to a 9 unless you're not performing like you're supposed to. And then there's your year. And I don't think we should have the expectation that someone's going to come in and just do everything right. It's going to be some trial and error, and we have to account for that. So when there's error, we evaluate and we decide what training is necessary to get you to the point where we need you to be. Right. And so so I don't necessarily think that, you know, he come in and we think, you know, he come in today and tomorrow, he didn't do something good. We gotta give some time.
Because that would be great.
Or, that's either one. That's either one, whichever way we go, that's either one.
Right.
So I think you have to give, some, space, and the word I really want to say is not coming to my head, but, grace. Who said that? That, I know I'm not supposed to tell you, I'm sorry. But that's the word I'm looking for, was grace, to perform the job that we need to be performed. It's not gonna be easy for anybody. I don't care if it's Mr. Holmes, Dr. Simmons, Ms. Crockett, the other people who interviewed, whoever. It's not going to be easy for anybody who be put in that position. It's gonna be a hard job, because we have a lot of things to do. We have to make sure our academics is right. We have to make sure we have opportunities for our students. We have to make sure that we're recruiting students. We have to make sure that we're recruiting teachers. We gotta get people back here, and that's not gonna be a small task for anybody. So, I mean, that's just one.
Vote.
It's not.
You can vote, if there's no more discussion, you can make your vote now, see what happens if you'd like to.
Right, vote.
Try to think of the discussion you've had as you make your vote, right?
Dr. Hunt,
Do we need to restate the motion?
it's been moved and seconded already
But you can restate the motion.
to enter negotiations with Mr. Rita Holmes.
If you don't say yes, get her up out of here.
And I'm assuming we're gonna go on evaluations to make sure that we are talking him to where he needs to go.
Right.
That's what we have to make sure that we do, because I think it's, again, it's a lot of pressure. It's just too much pressure to have that on a person who has not had superintendent and have to come into all these issues. And that's what I'm concerned about. So we're going to have him, we're gonna go into negotiations with him, fine. We need to let him know that, you know, we wanna help him, we wanna help him, we don't want him to do that. We need to know that we have to do, we just can't say, okay, you have it now, you go. We need to make sure that we are assisting him with some kind of whatever is necessary.
Right.
Amen.
Because this is not gonna get him a job.
Right.
It's just not.
I would agree. But I also would say that all board members have to be able to support him. When we send out emails, we need responses from everybody. When we ask them for their stuff from the attorneys, we need responses. They're not here today, but I'll speak about that in my board comments. So we have to be able to support whoever we hire, the teachers, the lunch lady, Mr. Hicks, if he's the maintenance guy, ABM, if they're gonna be the custodial company, we have to be able to support them and give them everything they need to be successful. That's our job as a board. That's pretty much it.
So vote.
Dr. Hunt.
Vote.
We gotta fight on that.
Oh, Cat got a tongue now. This don't make no sense. As y'all can see, we waiting on Dr. Hunt. She just feel like she ain't got to say nothing right now. So she's supposed to be the smart researcher.
It has to go from A, B, and A. It has to be unanimous or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know why you gotta reach the abstain. You need to be yes or no. Be yes or no.
Come on, stop playing games. Can't even do right. She the one been holding up everybody's eyes. Yeah, like she don't want our kids to succeed or something. This shouldn't take that long.
Ms. Malone? Ms. Slater? Dr. Lips?
She said no.
If your motion passes, we will work on negotiation steps next for superintendent's position.
At this time, we will have, comments from the board of directors.
Well, I have some things that I want to discuss, well, not discuss, I want to speak on, but I will try to add it to the agenda for the next meeting. We have some issues going on with our finances that I need to dig deeper into. It's kind of concerning, I won't go into detail until we put it on the agenda. Our attorneys, nobody's on there. They're not here today, but I have some things I want to address with them. I don't feel, at one point I felt that our attorneys were giving us good advice. Right now, I feel like our attorneys are stalling the process to get Meta into the schools. We voted, like I said, April 17th, and we don't have a signed contract. When we voted for MM1, they were in constant communication with Dave Patterson from MM1 on trying to get that contract fixed. And it was like night and day when we voted for Dr. Prince. I don't know why the contract isn't signed. I've been pushing to get it signed for months. It is nowhere near as long as the contract for MM1. It's only 2 pages. So I'm not sure how many changes we can even make to a 2-page contract. I have a crazy paper trail of emails I've been sending about this. I've included the board of education, I've included the attorney, I've included everybody in this board. The first time our attorneys talked to Dr. Prince was 2 days ago, and that was at my request. So for us to have this signed in April, and they supposedly have this urgency on getting a service provider and curriculum into the building for next year, I haven't seen that urgency from our attorneys in the last couple of months.
Amen.
But yet I'm being asked, can we wire the money the next day for their attorney fees? I'm all for paying people their money, but if I'm asking you questions and I'm asking for things to be by 5 o'clock on a certain day, and we agreed to it in the close, we agreed that you would get back to me at a certain time, and you don't do it, then it's a problem. But you want your money. April 17th is June 9th. Those labs could have been being built a long time ago.
Yeah.
Dr. Hunt is refusing to sign that contract for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's the last thing we need to get that going, the contract signed. The labs could have been being built in April, so the kids could have been excited about something that's going on. We speak about vocational classes and sending our kids to other places for vocational classes when we can have those same classes in the building. So it doesn't make sense. The labs will not be for the whole school. It will only be a certain wing for the lab. So everything else will be traditional education. I don't know how many times we need to clear that up. That's that. Credit cards, attorney legal advice. Yeah, so if the attorneys can't figure that out, I think we need to go a different direction with attorneys. If our board president is refusing to sign that contract, we probably need to go in a different direction with that as well.
Amen. Put your foot down. Put your foot down. Draw the
I
line.
think that we are moving forward, in a good direction. What I will say is that we have to just continue to move forward. And I'm going to ask something of everybody in the room. I know that we're not gonna always agree on how we move forward. We're not gonna agree a lot of times with direction. But please respect other people's opinion. People vote their conscience, they vote how they feel is best. It might not be the way you would vote. And that's okay, because I believe that a lot of things were built on conflict and controversy just because people had different opinions that they put together. They were able to compromise and get things done. So don't be so quick to disregard or scoff at someone's opinion or their vote. I mean, it is what it is. They vote like they feel they should vote. And that's it. So as we move forward, you know, as board members, we probably not gonna always agree on everything, on how things should be done, but just because we don't agree does not mean all of our direction is wrong or right. We can both be right, but we just got a different way and get to the solution. And we have to work through those things in doing this job. This is a big job too. And I don't think, you know, I certainly don't take it lightly. So as we move forward, respect is going to be very important. It is important, not going to be, it just is.
Thank you all for your time and attention. We appreciate you. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
What about the contract? You want to say that?
Okay, consider self-adjourned. Roll call, please.
I thought she was gonna speak on the contract.
Adjourn at 8:45. Thank you.
Oh, she ain't speak on the contract? God dang, dog.